Hello, welcome to your Hottop roaster. So in this video, I'm going to go through all of the processes that I've personally taken and that I use to run Black City Coffee. So I found that these have been very consistent in producing great tasting coffee. Now there's a lot of ways that you could learn to use this Hottop, and I encourage you to find your own methods as well. But just to get you started, I'm going to take you through exactly what I do personally with this machine, and then you can take it from there. So the first thing that we need to go over is equipment. So of course you have your Hottop. What'll be helpful is some sort of lamp so that you can see into the window for the beans. Windows or Mac computer. In my experience, Mac has not worked. It worked once, like when I first got this Hottop machine, but after a while when they updated it, because it's a free software, it's a open source software, it wasn't able to upgrade, or I don't know, I couldn't get it to work. So it was much easier for me to use a Windows computer and download Artisan for Windows. Okay. So always keep your charger handy just in case, because you wouldn't want to be roasting and run out of battery on your laptop. This machine comes with a USB connector, so we're going to connect that. I like to use a mouse, but use whatever you want. Okay, so that's ready to go. I have the Hottop already plugged in. I don't touch the Hottop. I don't have to turn it on or anything with the machine. I'll be controlling the Hottop exclusively with my laptop using Artisan. Okay, a couple of tools. Coffee scoop, unless you want to scoop out coffee with your hands. It comes with a funnel, so here that is. I like to use this stainless steel little bowl to measure out each batch size. Each batch size that I found that has been consistent with the charge time, the charge temperature, and reaching the certain events in the roast process has been 140 grams. Now I'm going to have all of this written down for you so that you have it written down and you can refer to it at any time. So I'm going to be measuring my batches of 140 grams of coffee into this bowl. Another thing that you need is a scale. So I have that. Another thing you'll need too is green coffee. All right. This one that we're going to be using for this demo is going to be Rwandan. It's at 1,500 to 2,000 meters. Okay. And a couple of other things that you may want to get are some bags, and they're called Gust or Gusseted. I'm not really sure how you pronounce that, but basically there's a one-way valve in the bag. That way, when you close the bag and close it off to incoming oxygen, you can still degas the coffee after you've roasted it with this one-way valve. Okay, so that'll be important. If you store coffee in a container that doesn't have a means of expelling the extra CO2 that comes from the bean after it's been roasted, it may build up some pressure, okay? So these are important. So some other things that you may need are some other larger stainless steel bowls. For example, if you wanted to do a pound of coffee on this roaster, you'd have to do it in batches. So in my experience, I usually measure out, or usually it takes me 4 times of 140 grams, and that will give me just over a pound. It would give me about 17 ounces, right? So, you can work out the numbers for yourself or experiment for yourself if you want to. Another thing you'll need is a colander. So after you've roasted your coffee, there will still be some chaff in there, and you can use this colander to sort of get rid of some of that excess chaff. Okay, let's go over the machine. So the machine itself has this window here, this port, where the drum is located. So after every heavy roast, or after every time I do like a roast session, there's going to be some buildup of chaff that you can see here. And I actually have a handy vacuum that I'm gonna go get so I can clean this up. Now you're gonna wanna do this as best as you can because chaff causes fire. They're very flammable. You'll always wanna make sure to empty this chaff tray after every single roast. Okay. You also want to make sure to check the drum for any leftover beans or debris in the drum. So I'm going to do that now. I'm just using a wooden chopstick so I don't damage the metal. Okay. I see a little bean in there. That's stuck in there, so let's take that out. Cool. So otherwise, do another little. Otherwise, ready to go. Let's put back the cover right here. And when you put back this cover, you don't want it to be super tight. You actually want to go to where you start to feel some resistance. And then I always give it a little shimmy like this. They recommend you to do that in the manual itself. And I think it's just so it has some allowance to move. I think metal can flex and do all kinds of things once it gets really hot. It'll reach temperatures of over 400 degrees. Okay, so we're good to go on that front. The next thing we need to do is now start up Artisan. Okay, so we're gonna open up Artisan. If you've already downloaded this onto your computer, what you'll need to do is go to config, go to machine, and then find the Hottop in there. Hottop 2K Plus, that's the one that we are using, okay? Boom, hit that. I don't need to click that right now, so, but for your computer, you will need to. Once you do that the first time and everything is running, you won't have to keep doing that, okay? So, this process that I'm telling you right now, you will have to do every time you open up Artisan. So, we right click on the timer, and we see a little subtext here. It says super on. Cool, now we know it's ready to use Artisan. Now we hit control. Cool. Now, if you go through this whole process and the machine does not turn on like this and spin for you, don't worry, it's not heating up right now. Then there's a miscommunication between the Hottop and your computer. So either you need to troubleshoot it. This will be the tricky part, technically, how you're going to make sure that your computer sees the Hottop via this USB. If you have to download another driver, you can find that in the documentation, okay? It may take a little, finagling, but you'll figure it out. All right, so from here, now the next thing we have to do is reach our charge temperature. Charge temperature meaning the temperature that we're going to pour the beans into the machine, charge it. Okay, so first what we're gonna do is hit on. So we're gonna start monitoring the temperature because we wanna make sure, hey, once we reach our charge temperature, we wanna know when it's reaching it. Okay, next, we're gonna turn the burner on to 100 and we can just slide that right up there. Okay, so from here, we're just gonna wait. We've got the burner at 100. We're monitoring that temperature right here. And ET at the right-hand corner in the red, as long as you're using Artisan, will monitor the environmental temperature of this drum. Okay? The temperature that you see below it is called the bean temperature. And then right below that is your rate of rise. So how fast or how slow are you rising or falling, going in time, basically, okay? So from here, we're just gonna wait. And this will take however long it needs to take. Since the roaster is cold and I'm using it for the first time today, it's not carrying any residual heat from, say, another batch. It's gonna take longer. If we're gonna do back-to-back roasting, say we're gonna do 4 batches to equal 1 pound of coffee, 4 batches of 140 grams, it's gonna retain that heat from one batch to the next, so obviously it's gonna take shorter time to heat up from one batch to the next, okay? But for our demo purposes, let's just go with 380 degrees Fahrenheit for our charge temperature. And let's just roll with that standard, and I recommend you to roll with that standard of charge temperature for most of the beans that you try. Another tip is to try and roast washed coffees first. These coffees are going to be the easiest to tell in terms of how you're going to make decisions during the roast process versus natural or honey or double wash. They can get a little bit more tricky. So in this learning time, I recommend that you choose washed processed coffees only, at least until you feel very comfortable with it, and then you can move on. Okay. We'll let the camera roll and just see how long it takes between the time that I started it to when we actually reach 380 degrees. We're at 125. While it's preheating, it would be smart to measure out 140 grams on your scale so that it's ready to go when you need to charge. So we're gonna do that now. Okay. Do I want to be exact? Yes. Okay. We are exact. And now here's what 140 grams of coffee looks like. Or raw coffee, anyway, okay? So that I leave like that, waiting for my temperature to reach 380 degrees. During this time, if I'm going to do back-to-back roaster in general, I want to take notes on my legal pad and make sure whatever I'm doing, I'm learning, I'm documenting. So from one batch to the next, I start to see patterns, I start to see things that I can learn from, or any mistakes that I have made. And I can look back in my notes and go like, okay, cool, that was that and that made this, okay? So how I take notes, you can be as detailed or as shorthand as you like, but just take notes, you know? For example, I would do number 1, because it's batch number 1, Rwanda, and I put the date, 24, okay, we're at 240, cool. And then the main things that I'm gonna be kind of taking note of is turning point, dry end, first crack, and drop. Okay, there's 4 main events that I'm going to be documenting. I didn't always take notes like this, so please be experimental, and I encourage you to figure out your own system. Okay, so we're gonna have our looking here so we can see into this window. And you'll want to keep this window as clean as possible. So say every 5 or so, you want to give that a good cleaning, just so it doesn't fill up with too much oils from the coffee, as it could skew how you make your judgment calls with the coffee. Okay, we're at 289. Okay, we're drawing near. So we're at 360. Now this one, you need to pay attention. Be ready. I'll explain what I'm doing as I'm going. 370. Okay, I'm going to remove this cover, put in the funnel, want to hit start. 380 hits. I turn the burner off. I turn the air to 20. I hover over the charge button. I hit charge. I see the numbers. I charge the beans. Move the funnel. Put that back. And chill out. At 1 minute, my timer here, I turn the burner back up to 100. Okay, we're approaching 1 minute. 1 minute goes, boom, burner back up to 100. I'll also screenshot this for you so you can see exactly what my data is and compare it to yours on this walkthrough run. Okay, turning point, Artisan has documented as 117, so I'm going to write that down. Around 3 minutes, we're going to get ready for putting the burner down to 90. And what we're trying to do right now is warm up the coffee so that it's slowly starting to roast. And we're really trying to wick away a lot of the moisture that's in the bean and reach what we call dry end or yellow, where the beans look yellow. Now we don't have a trier so we can see and smell and do all that stuff. So we have time and we have visual. Approaching 3 minutes, we're going to bring the heat down to 90. Maybe. Now these are where you have to start making judgment calls. A lot of times when I'm thinking about making a decision, I will often look at my rate of rise and see how that is acting. If I'm getting any crazy spikes or dips, that's how I will decide on my next move. So I'm at 330 and we're rising a little bit on the rate of rise, so I'm gonna lower the heat down. There's a rule in roasting that the rate of rise shall always be descending. So we don't want it to go here, 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 or down and then up or whatever. We want it to just steadily be declining throughout the whole roast. That's the whole point, is giving this coffee. I feel like we were rising a little bit too much. I brought the burner down to 80. Okay, I increased the air to 30 because I feel like I'm not cooling down at the rate that I want to go. I feel like I'm getting a little spike in there. Okay, we're at 4:30 and I'm looking at the coffee. I know that I'm supposed to be approaching yellow. I still see a tinge of green, so I'm not going to call that yellow yet. It's getting there though. It's getting there. Okay. It's your judgment on what you call yellow or dry end. And I'm getting there. Boom. I think that's it. I'm going to call it. I'm at 459. Once you reach dry end, put the air to 50. Get the burner down to 70. And I document my dry end. 459. Cool. So now we're here. We're in the second phase. We're in the Maillard phase. And we want to try to do this and get a first crack around 8 minutes. Late 7 minutes, 8 minutes. So we don't want to roast it too quickly, and we don't want it to roast too slowly. We become baked. I'm looking at my rate of rise. It's steadily going down. That's good. Don't get too caught up in these numbers. A lot of roasting is also intuition, again with this machine as well. And these probes aren't the most accurate probes that you can get. I mean, with even a very expensive machine, the probe is not 100% accurate. And that's the fun of it. You gotta kind of predict and play and work with what you got. We're doing good right now. We're at 6 minutes. I'm gonna bring my heat down. Actually, maybe not. Okay, yeah. Bring my heat down to 60, or my burner down to 60. I'm seeing a little spike in there. I'm gonna up air to 60 as well. If I had a dryer, some smoke would be coming off these beans already. And you can kind of see it here. And we want to expel that smoke because we don't want that to muddy any of our flavor. So the skill that I, impart on this coffee as a roaster, I would just have to be better about that if I'm tasting anything too smoky in my coffee. All right, we're hitting 330 degrees on the bean temperature, which means the beans are going to be radiating its own heat. Okay, so just keep note of that. Now there's more heat in the machine that you can control other than the burner and the airflow. Okay, we're at 8 minutes. I'm going to pop up the air to 70. We should be approaching first crack. Smells like baking bread. Smells good. Now we're looking for pop, pop, pop. Air's up to 80. I'm gonna put the burner down to 50. Okay, I'm gonna call that first crack. I'm going to put air up to 100. Keep the burner at 50. Document your first crack. We got 8 minutes 40. It's good. I like to keep the air at 50. I mean the air at 100, burner at 50 to have a nice rolling first crack. If I were to decrease the burner now, I would lose it. There's a lot of energy coming through here. Okay, first crack was at 8:40. I like to personally drop my coffees 2 minutes after first crack. So 8, 9, 10, 40. And that keeps it a nice city roast, city plus. And I'm watching my time here, waiting for 10:40 on the dot, and then I hit drop. This last 40 seconds of the roast, I'm gonna bring my burner down to 30. That way I don't go into like a city plus territory, like a medium roast. I wanna keep it light. That's my preference. You can go darker if you want. You could go longer if you want. Okay, we're approaching 1040 and we're gonna hit drop. Boom. Okay. Now you see that? Okay. I'll let you look at the color. Look at the beans. You look where the chaff is, it's still pretty flat. If that gets a little bit more inflated, a little bit more time in the roaster, then we would call that a medium roast. But right now, it's nice and flat, not inflated that much, so we'll call this a city roast. And that's what I prefer as a roaster and what I like to drink. Okay? But what we're looking for here is any tipping. Tipping, you would see burn marks on the ends of the bean where the chaff is being held, or scorching where the face of the bean would be scorched, say black marks. But we're looking very good. Color is very consistent to what I prefer, which is a city roast. And yeah, they're still kind of hot, so we let this cool for a matter of maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Be aware of, you know, the smoke. There's a little bit of smoke in here just doing one batch, and I did a light roast, so not that much smoke is generated. But yeah, it looks very good. We did a very good job. And I'll let you see my notes. So, number 1, Rwanda. The date, turning point, 117. Dry end, 459. First crack, 840. I dropped 1040. And those are my notes. And these are all batches that I made. And I see if there's any inconsistencies, then I need to change something. As you can see here we have that S-curve illusion thing that we got going on here. We charged at 380. The bean temperature is the blue, and the red is the environmental right here. And this squiggly line, that's your rate of rise, delta bean temperature. So the rate of rise here, always descending. I have some spikes in there, so we'll be able to, if I was sophisticated enough, I would be able to taste this in my roast. I don't know, you know, I don't think I am yet, but that's why we have the data. Okay, cool. So the beans are pretty much cool to the touch. And what I do is click cool end. I hit control. I see that says Hottop control turned off. Okay, so I wait for that. And then I have my colander here. This goes right here. Okay. Now I have a little bit of extra chaff in there, so just shake it. But it's all very even in color. It's very, very pretty. And that's what we want, consistency. So if I were gonna do a pound of this, I'd have to do this 4 times, okay? So there's that. A little bit in here. Here. And there you go. It's about 4 ounces of coffee roasted, and that's it. So there you go. That's my full roast process from top to bottom. Put this coffee here, ready for a customer or a client. And if you wanted to roast back to back, here's how you would do that. You hit off, reset. Let's take a picture of this for you actually. Bing. And then we hit reset, discard, hit control, hit on, turn the steerer off, close the door closed, turn the air all the way to 0, turn the burner all the way up to 100. Make sure, as always, to empty your draft drawer. All right, there you go, ready to roast again. I'm already at 300 degrees here on my environmental temperature. Now I'm waiting for 380 again, and I go through the whole process. And trying to be as consistent as possible. So during this time, again, I would measure out my 140 gram batch and then do it again and see if I can make sure that I'm hitting all of those events correctly. Okay? I recommend that you read Scott Rao's roasting book. Anything that you can find on roasting and roasting theory. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off and just dive in to what roasting is. And I think if you understand the theory, besides just knowing how to work this machine, you're going to be able to make better decisions for your coffee and be able to predict when certain events are going to happen and what to do in those cases. But this is all your journey. It's going to be super exciting, and thank you so much for getting a Hottop and joining the club. Have fun. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Bye.